Let's head to Israel. Sean's been there all week and has been reporting back. He's the closest that you will get as a New Zealand journalist. He is the only one there, and he's up close and personal with it. I think he's been into the border near Lebanon. I think he was there in the last 24 hours. He joins us now. Sean, g'day, mate. Nice to see you. Welcome.
G'day, Dunk. Big day, and it just got back into Tel Aviv. I've been not just to the border to Lebanon. I went to a place called the Golan Heights, which until a few weeks ago was an active war zone. And it is the intersection of the borders of Israel, Lebanon, and Syria. And as we stood on the Golan Heights looking out to Syria, and I could see the border, 400 meters away, we could hear gunfire from inside Syria, which was most likely, according to the advice I got, there is a civil war going on in Syria, and a very ugly one. And hundreds of people are being massacred. And the struggle for control of Syria means that various factions are trying to clean each other out. And you've got, the remnants of Al-Qaeda, the remnants of ISIS, Hezbollah, and various Arabic groups fighting amongst themselves. So that was the gunfire, the small arms fire that we heard. And then suddenly a massive explosion, and people may have seen this on my Twitter feed and my Facebook account, as, a stone's throw away, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, detonated a massive minefield. And they said to me, look, probably some of those mines are ours. This is one of the most mined places in the world. And if we're going to make it safe for everyone, we've got to get rid of them. It was the most remarkable explosion I have ever seen. I do recommend you go and look at the stuff on my feed. We then visited, Duncan, a Druze village. So that is an offshoot of the Muslim religion. And this Druze village sits at the nexus of these three countries. I talked to the mayor of that village, and I asked, why are you here? Why would you be in one of the most dangerous places in the world? And you know the Maori concept of having your tūranga waiwai? This was his tūranga waiwai, and they're Arabs. And it's an Arab town. But on July the 27th of last year, Hezbollah terrorists from literally across the mountain that I saw fired a rocket from southern Lebanon, and I'll tell you the full story. The rocket comes over the mountain. When I was in the air raid shelter last night, when I hear the air raid shelter in Tel Aviv, I've got 2 minutes to get into a shelter, and that's a long time. And also I know that the Iron Dome is going to hit that missile. And what was fired last night when I was here was an intercontinental ballistic missile out of Yemen, which the Iron Dome got before it got into Israeli airspace.
Who's firing that, Sean? Who would be firing that?
That was Yemen. That was the Houthis out of Yemen, 2,000 miles away. It was an ICBM.
Wow.
Okay. So, but then we go north, and I'm in this village, lovely, really beautiful place up in the mountains, where they farm citrus fruit, and they make things grow, north of the Sea of Galilee. And on the 27th of July last year, Hezbollah rebels or Hezbollah terrorists operating on the southern border of Lebanon fired a rocket over the hill, and the Iron Dome can't pick it up because it starts its trajectory behind the hill. And when they hear a siren there, they have maybe 5 seconds to get to a shelter. The center of this community is a sports complex of outside soccer grounds. And all the kids gather there, and it's the center of the community. And the kids ran for the shelter, but they didn't make it. And this rocket landed just 5 or 10 meters. I'll be posting the pictures later. And 12 of these Arab kids were blown to bits, and many more injured and lost limbs. And this community decided to keep that spot exactly as it was, with the hole in the soccer field and the kids' bikes and the explosion marks and the shrapnel marks on the outside of the bomb shelter that they didn't make it to. And that community is dealing with the trauma of losing so many young people in an attack from Arabs in Lebanon.
Sean, can I just jump in? Yeah, this is what I want to ask you. The terrorist groups, the terrorist groups, that's what they are.
Yeah.
When you look at the Western media, there's not huge criticisms and analysis of this. People are pointing fingers at Israel, but where's the criticism of the terrorist groups?
Well, I drove then, Duncan, an hour to the other side of that mountain, and I went to the northernmost kibbutz town of Israel. Only 12% of the people have gone back there in the last few weeks, because literally, and I'll send the pictures and I'll put them online, we looked at the village half a K away from which that rocket was fired. And this was, until very recently, the front line of the war between Lebanon and Israel. And all Israel has asked of Lebanon is that they create a demilitarized zone so the Houthis, so Hezbollah cannot fire rockets at innocent civilians. The UN was meant to be in there and the parts of the Syrian border I saw. And to be honest, the Israelis, Arab or Jew, were saying they were frigging useless. And what happened was, in this area, was that Hezbollah stockpiled rockets and weapons in every home that can be seen from this village. I was looking down on it. They were meant to launch their attack the same day as the Gazans, but for some reason they delayed for a day, and that gave a day for the people I spoke to. It was a holiday, to come back from holiday, pick up their rifles and weapons, and defend their homes. They were bombed. They were shooting anti-tank weapons at their houses. So the houses look good on the outside, but the rounds go in and explode inside.
Yeah.
They were lucky. Only one person died there. And I'll be honest, I looked across to the interesting, none of the Christian towns on the Lebanese side of the border were touched because no one was firing from there. But I can tell you, the Israeli IDF absolutely flattened some of the places I saw. And I was a stone's throw from these places. They had gone. And these people, I talked to a lovely guy farming kiwi fruit there. And he, same as the Arab, he was a Jew, same as the Arab on the other side of the mountain. He says, I'm 6 generations here. This is our place. And they were saying the IDF didn't defend us, but we have got to be able to live here. And there can be no weapons on the other side of the border. So I guess I got up close and personal today. And this isn't complex, Duncan. This is people of all religions, people who have lived in this area for thousands of years, wanting to go around their business without terrorists who are largely run out of Iran in a massive network of different organizations. And there's a thing called the Islamic Brotherhood. And you know what 2 of the Islamic Brotherhood's tenets are? They want to literally, they say this online, you can go to this, they want to kill Jews and wipe Israel off the map.
Do you sense that there will be a solution? This whole idea of this 2-state solution, and that's always talked about. How on earth is that ever going to happen?
Duncan, I think when our foreign affairs talk about a 2-state solution, they completely miss the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
There's no, for God's sake, the Israelis tried to give the West Bank back to Jordan. And Jordan refused to take it because they wouldn't recognize the state of Israel. And look, I've talked to people here. I went tonight, very sobering, to a place called Hostage Square. And Hostage Square is in the middle of Tel Aviv. It's basically a shopping mall where people just organically started gathering 525 days ago to talk and share stories about the hostages. And it's grown without any government help into this amazing place where there's a big digital clock counting the time since all the hostages were taken on October the 7th. There are 58 hostages left. More than half of them are dead, Duncan, but they still talk about bringing them home. And there are 24 people alive in those tunnels. Now, I think the Israeli government has given up. And look, what are Hamas negotiating for? Well, to get their convicted criminals out of Israeli jails and for the IDF to withdraw from Gaza. And the IDF has had a strategy of going in, hitting targets, coming out again. I think the Israelis have had enough. And they're going to say, we are going to march through Gaza and take it over again. And the only thing that will stop us is you releasing all the hostages now, and then we will leave you alone. And don't come for us again.
What you know and what you've seen and what you've been made aware of, and a lot of the stuff you knew already, there's so much criticism of Israel's approach to the Palestinian people and to Hamas, that they've gone too far, they've gone way too far, they've been too brutal in their almost extermination of this, as if it's ethnic cleansing. But what you've seen on the ground, is it entirely justified, given the history and given the reaction and given what happened on that fateful day?
The Israelis themselves will admit that they have settlers and militants within their own society who behave badly towards Palestinians, particularly on the West Bank. But I have talked to the young people, Duncan, who are fighting this war. They have no desire to wipe anyone off the map or kill anyone because of their religion, or indeed some of them I've talked to with their rifle slapped over their back. They don't want to kill anyone, but they're fighting for their homes, for their brothers, for their sisters, and for their country. And what I have really learned is that Israel doesn't want to invade anyone. It wants to be left alone.
Yeah.
And at the moment, there is a whole network coming out of Iran with weapons you wouldn't believe, who are trying to kill them. And the whole thing is so ass about face, Duncan, it's not funny.
Do the Israelis, do they have a number of... Yeah, I can see that, and I can see it's been confronting for you, and I think it's really impacted you, and it will for some time, I reckon. How many people in Hamas? Do they have any idea?
Well, it's not just Hamas; it's Hezbollah.
Yeah.
It's Fatah. It's the PLO. They all have the same objective. They're all part of the Muslim Brotherhood. They all want to destroy Israel. And they live in communities that don't want to do that. But those communities aren't democracies. So the Christians in the villages I looked at, they can't speak up against Hezbollah because they'll be killed.
Yeah.
The thing
so
I've heard people criticize, but I'll tell you what, in Israel, you want an argument, you ask an Israeli about something or about the IDF. This is a functional, open democracy with free speech. And they are self-critical people, but by God, they're tough. And they otherwise they would not.
Imagine an argument between you and one of them. You'd go all night. You need a few drinks to prop yourself up.
Mate, I just shut up now.
No,
I've never met a bunch of people who can talk more. I've hardly got a word in X-rays with most of the people I've met.
How have you changed in your views, Sean?
Have you changed
in your views from the week that you've been there? Because you haven't got long to go now.
I always had a view. Yeah, I always had a view of the truth of the situation, and I saw, yesterday we saw the video again of what happened on October the 7th, and all I can say is that this kind of is a battle for civilization, Duncan. And when Foreign Affairs says we're interested in the two-state solution, you don't say that. You say they should release the hostages now. We're so far away from a solution, it's not funny. Let's stop these people. And the Israelis, I tell you, reluctantly killing each other. And the only way to do that is to put a buffer around Israel so that groups, terrorist groups being funded from Iran, cannot willy-nilly kill civilians living peaceful lives in the villages they have occupied, in some cases, for thousands of years. Jews and Arabs alike. The other thing that you need to remember, and I don't think we get this, Israel is not a country of European Jews who fled the Holocaust. More than half the Jews here are Arabian Jews. Right? A whole lot of the country are secular people who do not follow religion. So this, but I'd still say it's a religious state. They're still a kind of righteous people. So this is not a European colonization of a place in the world they picked off a map just because they wanted somewhere to live.
The most confronting thing you've said to me the last couple of days was when you told me yesterday that after that ambush, after one of the ambushes, the guy, the Hamas terrorist, I suppose you call him, picked up the phone and rang his mother and said, "Mum, I've killed 10 Jews." And I think his mother reacted like,
I found
"Well
this
done,
out
come
today.
home," or something.
Yeah, to kill, to be under the extremist sort of Muslim doctrine, you have to get the blood of the person you kill on your hands. You have to get your hands on, get down and dirty and really hack into them. And his mother cried with joy.
My God.
And
Are you
I
hopeful?
don't see that in the faces of the young Israeli soldiers. I see young people who are having to grow up way too fast and do things that we can't imagine, even as old blokes, having to do in our lifetime.
I want to read you some of the feedback that's come in, Sean, because I know on these trips when you're miles away and you wonder how it's going down at home or whatever, and you're sort of in a hotel room and you're doing your job and you think, are people paying much attention to this? Well, I just want to read you a couple of things here that has come in, because I think it's important to. What an insight listening to Sean. This is a text that's come in the last few minutes. Brings things into perspective with what's happening on the ground. Then on the other hand, the only crap mainstream media news is reporting on poor old Johnny Minto, complaining that he and his minions copped a spray from somebody and he isn't happy. But good stuff, Sean. I'm so thankful for Sean's trip to Israel and his reporting. No other New Zealand journalist is there, and I often think back to the calibre of people like Paul Holmes was. And we've lost so much in our standards in the media. As an aside, New Zealand Herald showed their new and dire strategy to name and try and shame protesters that don't agree with their narrative. The Cambridge lawyer was named. I saw the video last night. But good on you, Sean. I'm glad that at last someone stood up to them and challenged the pro-Hamas rhetoric, says Sue. So there's plenty of...
I've issued on Facebook, my Twitter's not working, the internet's a bit odd here. I've issued on Facebook a challenge from Hostage Square, where I went tonight in Tel Aviv. A challenge to the Green MPs and to John Minto. I'm back on Monday, and I invite anyone who has protested against Palestine to come and tell me what difference they think they make and why they are not supporting evil and terrorism. And I have asked people here, and I asked this Arab mayor in this lovely town today, I said, what do you think when you see people in Western countries donning the flag of Palestine and chanting from the river to the sea? And he was an Arab guy, a lovely guy. And he said, this makes me angry. This is not the truth. This is not the truth of my town. And I think we need to get with the program. I think we've got to stop giving money to UNRWA, the refugee agency in Gaza, which just, those supplies are all taken by Hamas and then sold at market value to the people of Gaza and keeps them in poverty.
Yeah,
right.
Rip-off.
We have to say, let's just put the one-state solution to one side, two-state solution to one side for a moment, and just say, we support Israel. We support these people, and those hostages should be released. That's all we've got to say. We've got to stand
But
with
we
them
haven't
as a
been
nation.
brave enough to say that. But we haven't done this. And I want you to reply to this email, this text that's come in, Sean. Duncan, the first casualty in war is the truth. There is the Israeli view and the Palestinian view and the truth. Sean's drunk the pro-Israel Kool-Aid, says DM. You should reply to this because we're the platform, we're open, we're tolerant, and we say, give us your views. Now, that's a view.
I'll tell you,
What do you say?
as I said yesterday, even the Palestinian Authority doesn't like Hamas.
Yeah.
There are moderates and there are people searching for peace in Palestine too, and I've met some of them. And they know that the way this is going is wrong. So I haven't drunk anyone's Kool-Aid. I've talked to people who are fighting for their lives and are having their lives taken and don't want to invade anyone and aren't spinning me a line. They're crying over the death of their children who have been bombed to bits by someone in a town 3 or 4 kilometres away.
Yeah. It's to me, Sean, when I hear when you put it like that, I actually don't hold out much hope of resolutions. Because look where we're at. There are people that are persecuted and have been for decades.
And all Israel can really do, they think there's hope in Syria and Lebanon, but the UN have been useless. The Israelis are saying to the Lebanese government, stop anyone who is armed, illegally armed, in this buffer zone. Great, then our people can live safely. So you've got to have a demilitarized zone like they have in Korea. And in Syria, they're so busy massacring each other at the moment that things are relatively quiet on that border. Though, to be honest, they launched an operation into Syria about 5 kilometres from where I was today to go off after some specific targets that they're concerned about, the IDF. But they hope that the new government of Syria, when it is stabilised, will also have a demilitarized zone around the Golan Heights.
Yeah.
So that there can be peace there.
But and these scumbags, these dictators, these dictators like the Syrian Bashir who left Israel, who left Syria, and they live in a vacuum. You see, it's a vacuum. So all these dirtbags come in and try and take over the towns and the country. It shows how little they care for their people. They're just greed. It's greedy scumbag dictators, and the world's full of them. And you were right in the zone of it. You know, you saw it. Syria was right there, man. It's you've been everywhere, man. You've been to the hot spots.
Yeah. And look, Gaza's a little different. What's happened in Gaza is that a whole population of 2 million people has, for the last 20 years, been radicalized through an education system largely funded by people like you and me, Duncan, when we pay money to UNRWA that runs the schools with books about how to kill Jews in it. That's a different thing. And I feel, like I was talking to people today, 24 people still alive. They know where they are. They're not dropping bombs on those areas. Egypt may give an escape route for the non-combatants of Gaza. But, yeah, look, the history of this place. Look, one of the things got confused. People say when the war said, and I had to say which war. There've been so many. And there'll be a new one tomorrow or the next day. And
it's just
all I can say is here's a simple solution. That Israel needs to protect itself, and it has every right. And they are not committing genocide, and they do not want to commit genocide. They want to live in peace, as do most of the Arabs I've met here as well.
Probably a good place to leave it, Sean. It's just gone 8:30, but I'll just leave you with this from Philip. Great to hear real reporting from Sean. Awesome job, mate, Philip.
L'chaim. And hope I'm off tomorrow. And I got to tell you, buddy, actually, and one of the other Aussie journalists, I said, look, it's going to be good to get home.
Yeah, I bet. Are you coming home tomorrow?
It's going to take me 2 or 3 days to get back. I'll ring you. I've got, I think, about 28 hours total flight time. I've got to stop over in Melbourne. But I will talk. We can talk again, and I'll sort out the internet.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of very interesting footage that I'm going to share over probably the weeks ahead. I've got hours and hours of interviews with people and photographs of places that, I'll be honest, most people haven't been to.
Yeah. Okay, travel safe. We'll catch up again before you leave anyway. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. Well done. Nice line as well.
Work too.
I was going to say, good. Yeah. We pumped huge money into this overnight, so don't you worry, mate. You'll see the bill when you get back. Okay. It's 28 minutes away from 9, folks. Thanks, Sean.